Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review. Today I'm looking at another tank engine from Rapido. I was really impressed by Rapido's Hunslet 16-inch saddle tank, and if you'd like to see how that loco turned out, I'll pop a link up there for you. Today I'm looking at another tank engine from Rapido, and I'm hoping this one will be just as impressive, if not possibly even more so. Today's loco then is this. It is the Rapido Great Western 16xx Pannier tank, also known as the Great Western's final Pannier tank. And this locomotive was produced by Rapido exclusively for Model Rail magazine, so if you want to get one of these, that's where you have to go to get one. On their website, Model Rail offers, these are very expensive. They cost £149, and because the locos are exclusive to Model Rail, you can't go to a retailer and get it cheaper. So in terms of RRP, that is some £20 more expensive than the saddle tank I looked at last time. And because you don't get a retailer discount, of course, with this, it's quite a lot more expensive even than that. However, I bought mine from the Whalley exhibition where Kerno were selling quite a few items on behalf of Model Rail, and I managed to get this for £20 less than that normal price. This cost me £130, so a little bit more reasonable, but still a good £20 more expensive than the Hunslet. So hopefully, even though this is an exclusive, the extra money will be reflected in the locomotive. As always, Rapido do a great job with locomotives usually, so I'm expecting great things from this. I've been really looking forward to getting this one out and seeing what it's like, so join me for this. Let's see what it's like. So this box is absolutely massive, much larger of course than the standard Rapido packaging, and you've got a random photo of one of the locos on the front of the box. That does not represent the model inside. For that, I'll show you the end of the box, and the product number I have is MR-306. It's number 1638 in the Great Western Green. Now, 1638 is the preserved locomotive, and in real life these were never in Great Western Green, at least not when they were in service. So I'm assuming that this is a preservation livery. If I show you the end of the box here, you can see a brief bit of history on the class, so pause and read that if you'd like to know more. But I think for now, I'm going to jump in and we're going to take a first look at this £149 Pannier tank. Yeah, really expecting something special given the usual price of this, and even for the £130 I spent, yeah, it's got quite a lot to deliver, I think, for that. Pannier personalities. Apparently you can bring your new 16xx to life with made-to-measure crew packs. There you go. Well, you can use that code if you'd like to. Very nice. So we've got another mini booklet, just like with the Hunslet. This is for the 16xx Pannier tank, of course. Let's have a look then. So we've got even more prototype history, actually. So pause and read that if you'd like. Unboxing the model, that seems like the usual unboxing process. Running in, that's fairly standard. Do not immediately try to pull a 40 wagon goods train. No, that's true. So yeah, I'll run that in. Fitting the detail parts. Looks like there's quite a few lamp irons to fit and other things. Let's keep looking. Dismantling the 16xx. To remove the body, you've got to pull the two water fillers on top of each side tank off. Set them aside. Okay, so it sounds a bit fiddly and non-standard. Pulling water filler tanks off, presumably to get some screws out. Oh, Rapido. Okay, fair enough. It's fitted with a next 18-pin decoder socket. The diagram shows where that goes. NEM couplings, that's fairly standard. Operation, just telling you that this is not safe for anything above 15 volts. That's obvious, I suppose. Troubleshooting, there we go. Look at this absolutely tiny exploded diagram. Yeah, this is really quite difficult to interpret at this sort of scale. I guess that's the downside of having such a tiny booklet. But yeah, if you look up close, you can certainly interpret that. The motor there, for instance, does not look like a cordless motor. So we'll have to figure out what sort of motor that is later on, if possible. And, oh my word, yeah, parts list. Okay, well, hopefully I won't ever need any spare parts. Right, are you ready? Let's peel this back and look at all of this packaging. That is insane. Yeah, really, really thick foam on this one. You're never going to have these damaged in transit, or at least hopefully. I might have jinxed that. Hopefully not. Right, what have we got in here then? So, just a few accessories really. There are those lamp brackets mentioned. We do have screw-link couplings with this loco, which is awesome. We didn't get those with the Hunslet saddle tank, so that is great to see. And there's also some fireman's tools as well. There's a little shovel there and a stoker. That is awesome as well. Really, really nice to have those. So most of the detail then is fitted to the loco. So let's pull it out. Even this clamshell is full of foam on all sides. Yeah, that's really, really good packaging. What quality. Right, so this feels heavy. I'm gonna predict that this is heavier than the Hunslet. So let's find out. First ever unboxing. I've had this for a few months, and the poor thing's sat in its box ever since then. So let's try and liberate it from some of this foam. Right, are you ready? I'm looking forward to seeing the finish on this. Here we go. Time to unwrap. Oh, there it is. Yeah, very interesting looking loco. Now the finish doesn't look that great, to be honest. I was expecting more of a sort of satin finish like we saw on the 94xx from Bachmann. But it doesn't look that bad, I suppose. Right, let's pull it out. Oh, wow. Cool. I'll tell you what, folks. Immediately I can see why this would have to be a little bit more expensive than the saddle tank, the Hunslet, because this just feels like it's all metal. Yeah, the pannier tanks are metal, the sides of the cab and the coal bunker, metal, running plate, metal. The weight of this thing, folks, is absolutely insane. I can't believe that. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, all other things ignored, this is worth the money because it's metal. It's just entirely made of metal. I will, of course, pop this on the scales in a moment and let you know what this weighs. But yeah, that's a very, very impressive loco indeed. Detail-wise, it looks pretty good too. I will show you some of those details up close, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this loco has to offer. First though, let's have a little bit of background history on these locos in real life. The Great Western 1600 class was actually not Great Western at all. The design very much was, but all 70 were actually built by British Railways between 1949 and 1955. The design did date back to the 2021 class, which was a George Armstrong design from 1897. These were Great Western, of course. And yet the design held up pretty well 80 odd years later. It's very much the same design. Because they were introduced to British Railways, the class missed out on the lovely Great Western liveries and were only painted black initially. We had to wait until the preservation era to see this class in a green, when this example, which is the only preserved member of the class, number 1638, was painted into Great Western green. The 1600s were handy locomotives with a tractive effort of around 82 kilonewtons and a power classification of 2F. No doubt they could have served many, many years, but of course this wasn't to be. Only 10 years after their introduction, withdrawals began. By 1966, the final member of the class was withdrawn, meaning that no 16xx ever survived for more than 15 years in service. Today, only one example remains, and it is owned by the Kent and East Sussex Railway. So there she is, the Rapido 16xx Pannier Tank up close and personal for you. And yeah, this is quite obviously a really tremendous locomotive. Really, really impressed with this right from the offset. The quality, I would say, is good, but there are one or two minor issues, and I think we'll start with those and get them out of the way. The first thing is the finish. If I put this next to the Bachmann 94xx, you can see that the finish is a little bit higher quality on the Bachmann loco. I do think this 16xx looks a little bit plasticky, which is a shame because it isn't plastic, it is largely metal. The other thing is the scratch. Yeah, massive scratch on the top of the Pannier tanks. Absolutely shocked that this passed quality control checks looking like that, because that's very, very obvious. Clearly no room for this sort of thing on a model that is this expensive. Ironically, some of the few parts that are not made of metal, in my opinion, should have been. The chimney is made of plastic and the top here obviously looks it. If we look at the Bachmann 94XX, you can see real copper was used there, and it looks so much better than the painted plastic. Again, for the price of this loco, I would have expected the same. Safety valve bonnet as well, yeah, it just looks like painted plastic. That's unfortunate. The last thing really is the lack of etched number plates. Again, they look fantastic when people fit those. This model is a bit too expensive not to come with those provided. Besides that though, yeah, the quality is really good. The weight is extreme. It comes in at 256 grams thanks to all of the die cast. So that's more than a Bachmann 08 shunter. It's more than a Hornby J36 with its tender. It is, however, less than the Bachmann 94XX. Somehow they've still got it beat on weight. I don't know how, because that didn't have as much die cast in the bodywork, but still 256 grams for this. It's incredibly heavy by all means. Let's take a close look at some of the various details then. So I do like the Great Western green. I have to say it was an easy choice to go with this one. The Great Western lettering looks really good, I think. Even though we don't have an etched number plate, I think the one provided looks fine. It doesn't have the same finish or relief that an etched one would, and I think that's unfortunate, but I think for what it is, it looks okay. The buffer beams are also nicely painted as well, as you can see, and the different paintwork on the various details there looks great as well. In terms of details, there is an awful lot to see here, so let's start at the bottom and work up. You've got full brake rigging depicted, as you can see. That looks fantastic. There's all this pipe work along the running plates, which ends on the buffer beams, as you can see. The buffers themselves are made of metal. They are separately fitted and sprung. There you go. The running plate does have some lamp irons pre-fitted to it. The running plate made of metal, of course. Tons of detail underneath the tanks and on the running plate. Lots of pipe work and various things. There is a very detailed depiction of the valve gear between the frames. That really does look impressive. Very hard to see actually, but it is there, which is great. The tanks themselves have a lot of separately fitted handrails on them, which seem to be made of metal, and that goes for the cab handrails as well. All of those are separately fitted and metal. These little steps are all separately fitted throughout the model, and you've got quite a few of those on the front of the tanks as well. The smoke box door has a separately fitted dart, which is a really, really lovely fine piece. And the top of the pannier tanks are very detailed as well. These little rings are separately fitted pieces, which to me is just insane, but they look great as a result, don't they? The relief on those is awesome. The water filler caps, obviously those are separately fitted because there are screws hidden underneath those, which is interesting. You've got the whistles, which are very plasticky looking, yeah, not the greatest whistles in the world. Realistic cab glazing, which looks pretty good. And then round the back of the cab, you see that grille effect on the back windows? That is not just a moulded effect. Each individual piece of those grills is separately fitted and glued into place. I just think that's insane. Isn't that crazy? I mean, the neatness with which that has all been applied is absolutely phenomenal, I think. You've got a separately fitted coal load, which looks fairly good, I think, and loads of detail around the back of the coal bunker, including a rack where you can put those fireman's tools if you'd like to. Right, let's have a look inside the cab. Yeah, it's a great cab, as you'd fully expect from Rapido. Gorgeous, gorgeous cab detail. Loads of different details picked out and separately fitted, and the gauges also appear to be painted as well. It is truly, truly excellent. Finally then, the wheels are cast metal by the looks of it. They are blackened, so they look fairly realistic. And then the coupling rods, these are not just punched out of a sheet of metal, these do look like they're cast parts as well, so they do have a real sort of density to them by the looks of things. So yeah, it's a great locomotive. Generally, the build quality is really high. I can't see any visible glue on this or anything like that. So overall, it gets a massive thumbs up. The quality is really nearly perfect. I love the amount of metal. I love the quality of the assembly. It's just that scratch and the finish really that has let this down. Right, let's move on then. Let's get this down onto the track. Let's see how this performs, and let's see what the quality of the mechanism is like. So there she is down onto the track, the tremendous Rapido 16xx Pannier Tank. The first performance test has been filmed, and I won't spoil what happened there. I'll show you that in just a moment. Next up, I went and did my analysis on the mechanism and the innards, and that's what I'm going to talk about first of all. In a nutshell, it's fantastic. Yeah, the quality of the mechanism is high, you've got great access, it's just a massive, massive tick. The base keeper plate is held with screws. I had hoped that the brake rigging would be connected to that so that all of that comes off with it, but no, that's fixed to a different part of the model, so you do have to remove that. Then the base keeper is free to be removed, and amazingly, even the base keeper is die cast. This is a heavy piece which adds an extra 10 grams of weight to the model. It's amazing. Anyway, you can see we have proper bearings on the driving axles. We've got just the one driven axle, so it's not overcomplicated or over-engineered, and the rest of the axles are free to turn. But where are the pickups? You can't really see them. Well, actually, these are them. If we have a closer look, you can see that they are what look like carbon brushes poking out the sides of the chassis, and they are sprung against the wheels. Very unusual design. It's, again, Rapido thinking outside of the box with pickups, but this time it does seem to work pretty well. All 6 of them are individually wired, so it's crazily inefficient, really. You know, every single pickup has got a separate wire and a separate solder joint on the circuit board, but they do work well, so it gets a pass on that. The body removal is actually much, much more intuitive than I expected. I thought it was going to be a right faff, but actually not too bad. 2 screws on the base of the loco, you remove those water filler caps and undo the screws on top of those, and then the body just lifts off very easily, not too much of a faff. So you have got easy access to the DCC decoder socket. That's the next 18 blanking plate, so easy to chip if you want to. A speaker is in there already. Didn't realise that, but yeah, we've already got a speaker in there, so that's all sorted, ready to go. There are firebox LEDs. Again, how amazing is this? The number of features on here is amazing. And the motor is under here somewhere. I didn't delve underneath it because I would have had to have moved all those wires out the way, but you can just about see a very, very tiny flywheel there, so we know it's got one. The gauging came in at 14.2 to 14.3 millimeters, which is absolutely fine, just a touch below the standard, but reasonably close to it. Right, so the really exciting part is the performance. So let me show you how that went. All right, finally it is time to see this run, and obviously expectations are very high because this was a very expensive loco. So forwards direction, let's see if it works. First try, off we go. Oh yes, yes it works. Ooh, very smoothly and quietly as well. Ah, you can just tell, you can tell straight away that this is going to be a good runner. Very nice. Right, let's do a 50% run past to show you what the gearing is like. That's half speed. Yeah, it's not racing. No, definitely not racing. So yeah, I'd say the gearing is quite smart. I am noticing that we've got lights in the firebox. How amazing is that? I guess I don't sound too surprised because that's just exactly the sort of thing you'd expect from Rapido. And what an awesome state of affairs. More or less every steam loco I review these days has lights in the firebox. It's really, really awesome. Right, what is the crawl like? Let's give that a try. So we're forwards to start with. Let me ease it up and let's see. Oh yeah. Bit more. So it's quite coggy at this speed. I do wonder whether it's got a flywheel or not, but you can't deny that's very, very slow. Let's try and accelerate gradually. Oh yeah. Gosh, those motors must be great, whatever they are. Cool, yeah. Look at that. Yeah, that is really marvellous performance. And unlike the Hunslet, this is not struggling. I mean, it's not cut out at all yet. So I've noticed there's something a bit different with the pickups this time. You guys will know more about that because you'll have seen the mechanism section. But they do seem to work better than the split chassis axle pickups. Definitely seems to be much, much more reliable than those. All right. And it's not even been running. Yeah, it's running absolutely perfectly. It's been in its box for a good, at least a year or two, running absolutely perfectly. I mean, that is just insane. How incredible. All right then. Right, forwards, let's go and run this loco in. Wow. Just wow, look how beautifully smooth that is. Yeah, nice and stable. I think it is a little bit speedy, if anything. Yeah, it is going quite quick at 50. But the thing is that it's so smooth at all speeds that you can actually slow this down and it's still absolutely fine. It's not like it starts jittering and juddering at quarter speed. It's perfectly smooth at any speed. And the torque is clearly there. It's not struggling around curves or anything like that. I can tell immediately that this is going to be a 5-star performer. It's just great. Wow. So, I mean, I doubt we're going to see any improvement with the running in, but it's still going to have the full 30 minutes in each direction. So I'll do that and I'll report back very shortly. All right, folks, see you in a second. Okay, folks, I am back. And yeah, this is just an absolutely wonderful performer. Never a problem. I just left it to it and it was perfect. I never saw it slow down. It never stalled. It didn't start making funny noises. It's just been perfect all the way through. It's almost like this loco was designed by a completely different team from the Hunslet, because I just think this is a lot better. Yeah, the mechanism's a lot better, it's a lot less fussy, it's a lot more intuitive. I think the loco's more detailed. Yeah, it's very, very different from the Hunslet, but in a good way. Right, so the pulling power is amazing. It's 0.42 newtons, that's the tractive effort. That should be around 26 coaches on straight and level track. And finally, that has beaten the Bachmann 16xx. So yeah, this is the better hauler, despite being lighter, which is interesting. Right, let's just see what the crawl is like now. It was great before, but I'll just want to do it again, frankly. Look at that. Perhaps even less coggy and incredibly slow. Let's go a bit faster. You can see at that speed it's way smoother. The control is just outstanding. It's really, really got to be one of the best runners I've got. Yeah, again, it's another masterclass. The J70 was, and so is this. And both of them from Model Rail. So yeah, Model Rail is where it's at, folks. Best exclusives ever. Right, so because this is in a sort of preservation livery, I've set up just 3 coaches. Obviously they won't do an awful lot to test the extent of this loco's haulage, but it's so heavy, you know it's going to be good. I guess I will show you a torque test just to prove that there is good torque there. So let's go up to 50. Yeah, look at that, turning its wheels. So plenty of torque there as well. Really, really good. Right, let's go and couple, see how the couplings function. Right, let's take it steady. And of course, I could make this take all day if I wanted to. Look at that. But I won't. Let's go a little bit quicker. Couplings, you won't be surprised to see engage perfectly, I think. Yeah, very, very nice. Off we go. Let's go about 35 speed, something like that. Right, on the middle line, I've got the 16xx from Bachmann, and right up until I looked at the mechanism, I think this one was my favourite. But now that I've seen how absolutely amazing the performance is on the 16, I think that might have just taken the biscuit. I think this is the slightly better looking model in terms of the finish and the detail and the features. But I don't know, I feel myself leaning now towards the 16. Anyway, that's got a bit of a freight train. And then on the inside line, I've got the 64xx with a bit of a passenger train. I've got some of the really old-fashioned Bachmann Great Western coaches. See which other Panniers you can spot, and there is an odd one out. All right, here she goes around the curves with the coaches. Yeah, doesn't seem to care about them either. Yeah, plenty of torque there. Very, very nice. So I think you can colour me extremely impressed by this locomotive. In my opinion, this is a brilliant example of an exclusive done properly. I get so frustrated sometimes with exclusives because the commissioners know, they know that people are going to want these models and that they can't go anywhere else, and they really take advantage of that with the pricing. And quite often, some of the exclusives I've looked at have been nowhere close to representing what they cost. And I just get the feeling that they're more there to line the pockets of the commissioner than they are to actually bring something great into the hobby. Now, these are expensive locos, and I'm sure Model Rail will be making plenty of money from them, but they've made sure that the model that goes out to customers is as good as it possibly can be. This thing is almost entirely made of metal. The detail is better than anything I've seen before. The mechanism is top-notch. It's one of the very best performing locomotives I've got. And so yeah, it's worth 130 quid, it's worth 150 quid. I've paid 70 to 90 pounds more than this for exclusive locos which have poorer detail, poorer features and poorer performance. So bless Model Rail and Rapido for bringing this one to us. It is expensive, it's pricey, you know, it's a big bullet for the wallet, isn't it? But the money is represented in the model in basically every sense, and that makes the price okay, in my opinion. It's a hard one to swallow, but I don't regret it. I think the model was worth it. Let's have some ratings then for the fantastic Rapido 16xx. Like all models, this has a little bit of room for improvement, but really not very much room. The level of detail for me is 4.5 star. Clearly, the actual level of detail here is tremendous. The decoration is fantastic. The sheer number of separately fitted parts, even going down to the individual grille bars on the glazing, that is super impressive. You've got the sprung buffers, you've got the cab interior lighting, all of that detail, the separately fitted rings on the top of the tanks. Yeah, the level of detail is just fantastic. I just wish the finish was slightly better and that we had some etched number plates to put over the printed ones, and then it would have been an easy 5. Perhaps a little bit more of a metal finish on, let's say, the chimney as well, but those are very, very minor things. The performance, let's move on quickly from this. Clearly it's a 5 star. Perfect performance at all speeds, even down to a crawl. Never does anything except perform perfectly. It's a 5 star performer. The pulling power is also fantastic, 0.42 newtons or 26 coaches. That's more than a Hornby A4, it's more than a Hornby A3. Absolutely tremendous pulling power. The mechanism similarly has to be 5 star. It's got all-wheel pickup, proper bearings on the driving wheels, nice simple uncomplicated mechanism, good design, it's relatively serviceable, nice easy access to most of the model's innards. 5 star, cannot fault it. The quality is 4 star. Actually, generally the quality is very high. There's no visible glue or anything like that. It just loses 1 star for the big scratch that was on the top of the tank. That was unfortunate. Finish, a little bit plasticky, and again, those parts made of plastic, such as the chimney and the whistles, yeah, they didn't look quite as good as we've seen on some other locos, but again, these are not major issues. Okay, value for money then. So this is an extremely expensive loco at £149 or £130 at the special exhibition price. But for the most part, this price is justified. The model is almost entirely metal. It's very, very complex in its detailing, and yet it's all been assembled very nice and carefully. This could have gotten 5 star, I think, if it had the better finish, a little bit more metalwork, the etched number plates, that sort of thing. But overall, for the most part, you do get what you pay for, so the value is not actually that bad, 4 star. Overall then, that is 9.01 out of 10, that's grade A, and let's pop that into the logbook where it is top place above the Acura Scale Class 92. Just like the other Model Rail exclusive, the J70 from Rapido, this blew me away. A lot of the companies that sell expensive exclusive models, in my opinion, offer very poor value for money. Model Rail is not one of those companies. Their models are expensive, but you do get what you pay for, and that's certainly true of this loco. Super impressed. So there you have it, the fantastic Rapido 16xx. Yeah, absolutely fantastic, just like the J70, an absolute thrill to own this one. And of course there is another Pannier Tank in the works from Rapido, so hopefully that will be more like this and not so much like the Hunslet. The Hunslet was great, don't get me wrong, I love the Hunslet, but this is quite clearly a good few steps above the likes of that. And it's kind of what I was expecting from the Hunslet, this sort of quality and attention to detail and design prowess. But yeah, let me know what you think about this. Have you got one of these? Were you as impressed with it as I was or not? Please do let me know. But for now, I'll say thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon for another review. All right, cheers folks, take care.